Hello learners, let's understand the concept of subject verb agreement. But what exactly is subject verb agreement? So subject verb agreement refers to the relationship between the subject and predicate of a sentence. Subjects and verbs must always agree in two ways, that is tense and number. For example, in the first sentence, that is, the lights in the lamp post flickers each night. Now in this sentence, the subject light is singular. Therefore, the verb that describes the action of the subject must also be singular, that is flickers. Now if the subject was plural, the verbs would have to change form to agree with the subject. For example, the lights in the lamppost flicker each night. Now in this sentence, since the subject is now plural, the S has to be removed from the verb in order to have a subject and verb agreement. Now let's quickly take a glance of a few rules which will be handy at times of solving questions. Rule number 1 states what? Rule number 1 states that singular subjects must always have a plural verb. For example, he writes and she plays. In these two sentences, the singular subject have what? They have plural verbs. Next rule says that a plural subject must have a singular verb. Now in rule number 1, they were saying that the subject has to be singular and the verb has to be plural. And in the second rule, they are saying that if the subject is plural, then the verb has to be singular. For example, they write and we play. Now they is what? A plural subject, whereas write is what? A singular verb. And similarly in we play as well, the subject is plural, that is we, whereas the verb is singular, that is play. Next rule is that the two subjects joined by and will always take a plural verb, that is, the doctor and nurse work together. So the doctor and nurse, these are what? These are two subjects and they are joined by what? They are joined by and, that is nothing but a plural verb. Okay, so they are joined by and now they always have what? A plural verb. So what is the plural verb? That is work. Let's move on to next rule, that is rule number 4. Now rule number 4 states that if two subjects express one idea, we need to use a singular verb. That is, suppose bread and butter is a wholesome food. So in this case, we have used a singular verb. Why? Because bread and butter reflects one idea. It expresses one idea. So whenever two subjects expresses one idea, in that case, we have to use a singular verb. Let's see one more example. That is, soup and salad is too light a lunch. That is, that soup and salad, these are two subjects and they express one idea, that is having a light lunch. Therefore, we need to use a singular verb with it. Let's move on to rule number 5. Rule number 5 states that two singular subjects joined by or nor, which will take what? A singular verb. Now, a doctor or a nurse. So these are two singular subjects which are joined by what? Which are joined by or. Alright. Now they need to take what? They need to take a singular verb. So they are going to take a singular verb, right? So basically this rule says that if I have two subjects that are joined by either or nor, then they are going to take what? Singular verb. Let's move forward. Rule number 6 states what? Rule number 6 states that a singular subject and a plural subject joined by or, either or, neither nor, none but, not only but also will take a what? Singular or plural verb depending on which subject is near the verb. So basically what they are saying is that suppose I have a singular subject and I also have a plural subject which are joined by all the terms that are displayed on your screen. Now the verb can be plural or the verb can be singular depending upon the fact that either the singular subject or the plural subject is nearer to the verb. Let's see it in these examples. Now neither Deepak nor his friends are joining the two. So obviously his friends are what? His friends is a plural subject. So therefore the verb has to be what? Plural. Similarly, in the next sentence, neither his friends nor Deepak is joining the tour. So now Deepak is what? Singular. Similarly, if he is singular, then the verb that we need to use has to be what? Singular. And lastly, none but the leaders of our country are responsible for this. Now, leaders of the country is what? Plural. So therefore, the verb which we need to use should also be plural. And this is exactly what is reflected in rule 9. That is, if I have a singular subject or I have a plural subject which are joined by these things, then what we need to do is we either have to use a singular verb or plural verb depending upon which of the subject is nearer to the words that are like the verb. Okay. So let's move further to rule number 7. Rule number 7 states that if two subjects are joined together by as well, with, along with, together with, besides, in addition to, and not, rather than, the verbs will act according to the main subject. Let's see in examples. So the first is that students as well as teacher are playing. Alright, so here the verb has to act according to the main subject. Here students as well as teacher is there, but there are. So the main subject is students. Therefore, we have put an R in that. So what they are basically saying is that if we have two subjects that are joined by, as well as with, along with, together with, besides, in addition to, and not, rather than, then the verb will act according to what? The main subject. Similarly, we have two more examples, that is he as well as his brothers is sitting. So he is the main and is what we are using in accordance to the main subject. Then I have I as well as he, am. So I is the main subject and am is the verb which I am using in accordance to the main subject, that is I. So I as well as he am going out of station for a week. Let's move on to rule number 8. Rule number 8 states indefinite pronouns such as someone, somebody, nobody, one, no one, everyone, everybody, either, neither, etc. always take a singular verb. So basically what they want to say is that if you have indefinite pronouns in your sentence, and what are the examples of indefinite pronouns? It's someone, somebody, nobody, one, no one, everyone, everybody, either, neither, etc. Then there has to always be what? A singular verb in that place. So examples are each of my friend calls me once a month. Okay. So basically there is this indefinite pronoun, that is each of my friend. Correct. So we need to use a singular verb, that is calls me once a month. So calls. Okay. And there are two more examples, that is each boy and each girl has come, and then one must tolerate one's friends as well as enemy. So what do we understand by these examples? That suppose you have indefinite pronouns in your sentences, and I will repeat this again. What are the examples of indefinite pronouns? It is like someone, somebody, nobody, one, no one, everyone, everybody, either, neither, etc. Alright. So if these kinds of indefinite pronouns are used in your sentences, then you always have to use what? A singular verb. Next comes rule number 9. So rule number 9 states what? Rule number 9 states that indefinite plural pronouns. What are your plural pronouns? They are like your several, all, few, both and many. Always take what? Plural verbs. Now both of the books requires what? Careful reading. So we have what? Plural pronouns. Okay, indefinite plural pronouns. That is both, as it is mentioned here as well. Therefore, in the sentence, there is what? Plural verb. Okay. Whereas in another sentence as well, several of the fielders regularly run 4 or 5 kilometers a day. So, several is what? Several is an indefinite plural pronoun. Therefore, we have a plural verb in the sentence. Let's move on to rule number 10. Rule number 10 states what? It states that title of the books needs singular verbs, like for example Great Expectations or Gulliver's Travel. So we need to have what? We need to have a singular verb. So is and is. So Therefore, what they are saying is that suppose you have title of books, any book. These are the two examples that I've listed, but you can take any example. So they are saying that title of the book means what? A singular verb. Let's move on to rule number 11. Now the subject many a is always followed by what? A singular verb. Like for example, many a man was drowned in the sea. So many a is what? The subject. So it has to be followed by what? A singular verb, as you can see. Similarly, in second example as well, many a student. So it is followed by what? A singular verb. So many a student has not done his homework. Let's move on to rule number 12. So rule number 12 states what? It states that if the subject is the number of, use what? A singular verb. So what they are basically telling is, they are telling that if the subject is the number of something, that is the number of books, the number of boys, the number of girls, the number of houses, the number of anything. So if the subject goes like the number of something, use what? A singular verb. For example, the number of books, so we have a singular verb. Similarly, the number of boys, so we have a singular verb. So this is exactly what they are saying, that we have what? A singular verb whenever there is what? Whenever there is what? Subject in what format? The number of something. Alright. Let's move on to rule number 13. So rule number 13 states what? Rule number 13 states that if the subject begins with what? A number of, that is a large number of, a great number of, many, we need to use what? A plural verb. That is, suppose there is the subject books and it begins with what? A number of something, that is a number of books, a large number of books, a great number of books, many books. Then we need to use what? A plural verb. Let's move forward, and we have what? We have rule number 14, that is the last rule, and this rule states what? This rule states some nouns in the plural form represents an amount, a fraction, or an element of time, that is sum, distance, quantity, and time period. So what they are saying is that there are going to be nouns in the plural form that represents a certain amount, a fraction, or basically an element of time. And what can be these elements of time? That is sum, distance, quantity, time period, etc. These can be what? These can be represented by some nouns that are what? In plural format. Now, in that cases, we need to consider what? We need to consider singular, and hence take what? Singular verbs. That is 60 minutes is enough to finish this work. So we are done with rule number 14 as well. Oh my god, that was a lot of rules, right? 14 rules. Now let's solve a few questions before we wind up for today. So question number 1 states what? First of all, the rules, that is we need to choose a correct form of the verb that agrees with the subject. So what is example number 1? Example number 1 states that Annie and her brother is or are at the school. So what is it going to be? We have two people joined with and, so it's going to be what? Are. Correct? Next example states either my mother or my father is or are coming to the meeting. Now, two subjects, that is mother, father, joined by or, and there is either as well. So it has to be what? Singular, that is coming to the meeting. So I hope you people have understood a little bit about subject verb agreement. We will take up the remaining portion of the chapter in upcoming video. Till then, you can go to EduRev and attempt these tests to understand this chapter in depth. You can unlock all the logged videos, documents, and tests for CLAT with EduRev Infinity Plan and ace your exams at less than ₹80 per month. Thank you.